Alright, so back to this, or should I say ending this, right? Again, making this video after completing the replay through of Longer Roads, right? Again, the black screen video for the replay through. And yeah, just again, wanted to go over a few things, given that we're closing the curtain on our replay through of this mod. Wanting to go through again, kind of thoughts and opinions on the mod and its replay through. Wanting to go over again, in comparison to when I originally played through, want to go over as well as just future plans, for whatever next DDLC mods, as well as just recordings in general, given, again, it's kind of a volatile period of time for that. So, again, with that, we can just get into it. So, again, right, for context, if you don't know, I originally played through the mod back in 2020, right? It was during that COVID period or time frame, right? It was I think it was summer of 2020, right? I played through it at the time I was playing through Insurgents, right, back then. And the reason why I decided to replay through it is, first, I had already replayed through A Brand New Day as well as New Eyes, right? I replayed through A Brand New Day back in 2021, as well as New Eyes back in 2022, right? Granted, the main reason I replayed through those was because I was graduating college, and I didn't know if I'd be able to record past college, which was kind of the big thing, as well as given that, I wanted to see if they held up, particularly New Eyes, right, which it did. Again, for this one, I originally wanted to do the Salvation remake because it did get a remake. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it working. So, at the time, I was going to double it with Reborn. Again, ended up putting Reborn on kind of an indefinite hiatus. But, again, still made that decision to play through, replay through Longer Roads, right? Because the big thing being coming up, I'll talk about it later. But, again, made the decision to replay through Longer Roads, right? Given that it was, and especially now that we've played through Blue Skies, right? And kind of given that those two are very similar, I wanted to see, if it held up, particularly in relation to Blue Skies. And what I've kind of noticed during this replay through is that it didn't really hold up. Again, not to say it's not a good or a great mod, I still enjoyed it, just compared to when I originally played through it, and with the nostalgia and kind of looking back on it, it again isn't as good as I thought it was, and that's due in part to a few reasons, right? I'd say probably the main reason is, again, it has a big flaw or issue, which is one of my biggest pet peeves involving mods, right? And it's that, again, the fact that there are not just decisions, right, but also even different routes where, things happen or don't happen independent to whatever you pick, right? And what I mean is that things that should be consistent across the routes or decisions aren't. And that's, that's a big pet peeve of mine because I don't want to say it's lazy, but it's kind of a cop-out in terms of, for example, I think probably a big example of this is, in Monica's decision between the good or bad route, right? Not in Yuri's. Yuri's was pretty much the same. Even Sayori, again, it's just an issue where decisions, you make a choice, right? And then something that is independent or unrelated changes, despite the fact that logically it would stay the same. And it's just, again, I don't want to say lazy. It's just a cop-out, right? That's really what it is. But, again, because they could have easily made it about whatever else, right? But, that obviously wasn't the case, and it's again, that it's just something that, pisses me off, right? And a pretty big pet peeve of mine when it comes to, mods in general. Probably one of the biggest ones. And again, it's something that not only is it present across decisions in this, but also routes in general, right? Because again, with the way the mod is structured, and with how you have, again, Monica and Yuri's route kind of parallel, and then Sayori and Natsu's route parallel, right? There are things that you think would happen that are basically templated to happen at the same time that are just different, for no real reason. And it's all right, I mean, it basically what it does is, it makes it seem as though your decisions don't actually really matter, right? Because it's just something completely different and unrelated that's actually going to change it and make the impact. But again, that's probably the biggest thing I'd say. Granted, again, that's a fairly common issue amongst mods, and it's not something that makes this mod bad, right? I still think it's a good or great mod, right? It's just the main thing. And a couple other smaller things, and I will say the smaller things, though, are mostly just in relation to kind of how I originally remember this mod. Like, for example, this mod was a lot shorter than I had initially thought. I beat it in like 23, 24 parts in this time, compared to like the original took me like 60 something, right? Which I guess, to be fair, makes sense given that, the first playthrough is always going to be longest, right? But still just something to kind of point out or note there. And then the second thing is also that I originally thought you would get like glimpses into the future, but that really seemed to be just one like particular instance on the Monaco route. Like, I don't know why I specifically remember that, but again, it's something there. And the reason why I bring this up is because when I originally played through Blue Skies, right, again, if you remember, that was back in like 2022, 2023, and it's a pretty notable premier like DDLC mod, right? Like, I'd say like if there's one that's like, besides like maybe MAS, I'd say Blue Sky's probably the most like, again, prominent one, right? And it definitely, I'd say like the gold standard, right? But originally I put Longer Roads above it because of kind of that, nostalgia I have. But what I'll say is, after replaying through it, I'm reevaluating, I'll say I'd say it's definitely more in line, if not slightly below, Blue Skies, right? The fact that it has a Monaco route doesn't kind of make up for the replay through. Granted, I do think, the Monaco route was still great, obviously. But, it's something to where it's like, it just doesn't hold up as much as I thought it would. Again, still a great mod, right? Just something that I'm pointing out. And again, what I'll say with this is, like, again, I still enjoyed it, right? And I'm glad I replayed through it. And I think the big thing is, I guess, and kind of, this is going to be a semi-transition towards, kind of the other topic of what I'm going to do for future recordings. But I guess an interesting point or thing to bring up is, what's next for, like, DDLC mods. I don't know if I'm going to replay through any other mods. The big thing was, again, I replayed through Brand New Day because that was, like, the original mod I played, right? And then, what would you call it? New Odds, because that was kind of my favorite and the one I had nostalgia for. And then I replayed through this, right? I don't know if I'm going to replay through an AR mod. There are other mods that I want to try and play out. Like, I do have a couple, as well as that Monaco mods list. So I think what's next for kind of DDLC, right? And I think this is also coming off of, like, it's coming off of, like, Fruits of the Literature Club. It's coming off of, like, because I played what? I played Fruits of the Literature Club. I played, I played Exit Music Redux, Fruits of the Literature Club, Branching Paths, and then Take Two, right? Take Two, again, there was the whole, I think that whole, like, kind of how that went down left a bad taste in my mouth. Branching Paths, I'd say definitely by far kind of, I'd say my new, like, favorite top tier, right? But it's something to where it's like, I think what it comes down to in terms of, like, let's say, future mods, I think I just start going off I'll play mods and then start going off the Monaco mods list, because it has, I haven't played that many Monaco mods, and Longer Roads kind of reinvigorated that. I really liked her out there. So that's kind of, I'd say, the plan for DDLC, right? Again, and then I'll eventually just start I'll just keep continuing the dabble, and play through some mods, right? That, like, catch my eye that I want to play through, but I don't really think I'll be doing any more replay throughs. So there's that, right? And with that, I'll say, I guess, kind of the next, topic and kind of last for this video is just future recordings, and kind of like, all right, what am I going to do for the future? Because, and I'll say I'm at a volatile point to where sometime soon I'm going to be going overseas for work-related things, again, and I may or may not be able to record. So I'm in a position to where sometime in the, I don't want to say near future, but sometime in the, like, notable future, I will be quite possibly not be able to record for, like, a period of maybe, like, half a year to, like, maybe even closer to 2/3 or 3/4 a year. And I'm kind of asking myself the question, what should I do with recordings, right? Maybe like a Civ game, maybe some more DDLC mods. In case you didn't know, that's the reason why I put Reborn on indefinite hiatus, is just because I don't really want to grind it out. When I get back, I'll definitely continue playing it, but for the time being, I'm at a good stopping point, so I'm just gonna leave it. I asked myself, right, all right, do I want to continue playing DLC mods? That's still very much an option. There are also other games I can play that I would be willing to record and, want to do there. Like Reverie was one that was just this past like month, right? I did Poppy's Playtime Chapter 3 like 2 months ago. There are other games I want to play that I'd still be willing to record. And again, a thing with that is, but it's also the issue if there's stuff outside of recordings that I want to do, particularly involving like getting back into like shows and shit like that. So the decision I made and what is probably going to come down to is I may or may not just kind of like sporadically record over the next couple or few months period, right? Just because of, again, it being kind of informed by potentially being gone for work. And it's something to where I don't want to force myself to record, especially if there's our shit I want to do. Again, so with that's kind of why I feel like replaying through Longer Roads was such a great thing, is because that kind of puts a close on, what I'm doing with that, right? So again, and what that kind of ends up coming down to is, again, the big thing there being that's like it ends up working out. And that decision I'm gonna make and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of like sporadically record and just basically record what I want to, right? If I want to do a recording for something, I will. If I don't, I don't, right? And it's kind of like, what I will say is though, if like, let's say, because I may not be gone at all, and if I get some sort of confirmation that I don't need to leave, right, basically the plan is to immediately get back into Reborn, right, and start grinding that out. But so long as I'm still under the impression that I'm going to be gone, right, it's something to where I think that's the best decision, just so that's like, all right, I don't need to worry, and, I'm not, for myself mainly, but also just so that's like, again, I will still probably make videos on certain things like black screens, sporadic recordings, but I'm not going to commit to anything is what I'm saying, right? So but with that, I think that pretty much covers everything. Don't really have anything else to say there. So, yep. That's it for this one. See you in the next one.